Herodotus of ancient Greece reveals that the pyramids of Egypt, in Cairo, of course, were built by Greek architects. And let's remember that a lot of locations in Egypt actually had Greek names. Thebes was from the original Thebes, about an hour's drive from north of Athens, which has a pyramid there, by the way. And Suez is actually the backward pronunciation of Zeus. And Said is the backward pronunciation of Theas, meaning God in Greek. Zeus, Theas. Now, Herodotus referred to the labyrinth of Egypt, says that the pyramids were built by Greek architects. He said, so they built the labyrinth a little above Lake Moeris, near the city called the City of Crocodiles. I saw this myself and was amazed. He said, it was an impressive architectural work, and certainly much more money was spent than on the pyramids and other wonderful buildings. The Temple of Ephesus, the Temple of Samos, as well as the Great Pyramids, they are all works of the Greeks. They are certainly very amazing structures, but the labyrinth surpasses them all. And here we have a clear statement from Herodotus that the pyramids were built by Greek architects, and this is the most remarkable. In comment, this is yet another response to the Christian apologists who accuse the ancestors of stealing everything from the Egyptians. And the writer says, I should add that when Pharaoh asked to measure the height of the pyramids, the Egyptians raised their hands. The solution was given by Thales the Milesian, who told them to measure the shadow of the pyramid. They hide all this from the Greeks so that not to learn their glorious past. Now, the Greek pyramids exist in various parts of Greece as well, and according to the studies that have been done, their dating exceeds that of the Egyptian pyramids by a thousand years. It's certain that they were made by native Greeks, terrestrial or extraterrestrials, we don't know, although the latter is believed. In the Greek area, more than 20 have been officially recorded, and they are located between northern Greece, Parnassos, and even the island of Evia. The most famous pyramid is, of course, the Pyramid of Taygetos, which is near Sparta, Greece, which is located at a high altitude on the mountain of the same name. Its perfect geometric shape leaves no doubt that it is an artificial work. The Greeks were the builders of the monuments, as mentioned by most of the unknown ancient multinational texts. The case of the Thales of Milesius is also known, when the Egyptians called him to measure the height of the pyramids because they themselves could not. And the writer says, I should add that the name Egypt in Greek comes from the words Aegean and Iptios, hence lowland Aegean or Aegis, and Iptios, Egypt, lowland Aegis. The Egyptians called their country Kemham, black land. For some reason, however, the Greek word prevailed, Egypt. A French speleologist discovered a diversion of a river for war purposes by Thales of Miletus on behalf of King Croesus in 550 BC. And the writer says, I just discovered an incredible tunnel in Turkey in the area of Cappadocia region. It's a project to divert a large river to create a passage and make it fordable. It's probably the one described by Herodotus, attributing it to Thales, and through which King Croesus passed to attack his Persian neighbor, Cyrus II, in 550 BC, says French speleologist Eric Gillies. Gillies believes that he is in front of a great discovery. He had first identified in 1984 two openings in a low mountain of Cappadocia, and continued the research by reading Herodotus, and now with the new technologies using the satellite images offered by Google Earth. Mount Aregos in Turkish Ersigek is located next to a river, the largest in Asia Minor. It is Alis, according to the ancients, Kizil Irmak, Red River, according to the Turks. The dimensions of the portico are impressive. 9 meters wide, 177 meters long. According to the speleologist's estimates, 12,800 tons of rubble must have been removed. The underground tunnel forms an almost perfect semicircle. The river entered one opening and exited the other. As Gilles says in the newspaper La Figaro, in some places the signs in niches where the oil lanterns were placed are still visible. To the question of why King Croesus did not build bridges instead of digging the portico, the answer, according to the French speleologists, is that the lands of Cappadocia are covered with brittle volcanic ash, which is not a good building material. After all, it's known that many houses are built in excavated rock. At the same time, this river floods and swells very often in a way that destroys bridges. However, Gilles considers it possible that the tunnel was already opened and that Thales simply had the idea of using it to divert the river. The speleologist is now seeking funding to create a Franco-Turkish comprehensive plan for further research. Until then, he's keeping the exact location a secret. It is, after all, characteristic that not even the mayor of the neighboring town knew all this. No one dared to enter the tunnel because of the bats and the strong stench. The narrative of Herodotus. Herodotus recounted the diversion of the Alios River in his histories. The operation was carried out in the war between Croesus, king of Lydia, and Cyrus, the emperor of Persia. At the time, King Croesus had close to him a military advisor, the famous Greek mathematician Thales of Miletus. It was he who suggested to King Croesus that the river Alice be diverted so that the Lydian troops could pass. The tunnel discovered by Eric Gilles could be the one described by Herodotus when he said, "When Croesus reached the banks of the Alius, I think he crossed the bridge we see there today." But if most Greeks are to be believed, Thales the Milesian was the one who opened the way for him. King Croesus, they say, was perplexed because the bridges that exist today did not exist then. Thales, who was in the camp, diverted the river which flowed to the left of the camp so that it passed on the right. He began to dig above the camp a channel in the shape of a curve so that the river would be behind the camp while it was in front. And Thales the Milesian records for the first time a solar eclipse. He records the solar eclipse. The first solar eclipse known to have been accurately predicted is that of May 22nd, 585 BC. The prediction was made by Thales of Miletus. In fact, that eclipse became the reason for the cessation of hostilities between the Persians and the Lydians. Specifically, the following are mentioned. The solar eclipse of May 28, 585 BC is a famous astronomical event that may have influenced world history. It's also the first solar eclipse that we know of that was accurately predicted as to when and where it would occur. It was predicted by the Greek Thales the Milesius. Herodotus, who gives us the earliest reference to Thales, claims that Thales predicted the year in which the eclipse would occur. We know that Thales traveled to Egypt, where there are no reports of Thales staying in Babylon. But the trip does not prove that he acquired knowledge from the Egyptians or even the Babylonians. The most logical version is that Thales was taught astronomy in his birthplace of Miletus. There are many scholars who maintain that Thales knew the circle of Saros and that he himself, being in Egypt or Mesopotamia, had observed the eclipse of the sun on May 18, 603 BC, or was aware of it, but this remains a case for inspection. Now, the battle in the river Al, at the time of the eclipse, the river Alius, at the time of the eclipse, May 28, 585 BC, the Lydians were ready to fight the Persians, the Medes, at the river Alius, who had already been at war with each other for 5 years, without one side prevailing over the other. With the darkening of the sky, such terror came to the combatants that they decided to stop the war. The Lydians generals were warned because they knew the prediction of the eclipse, while the Medes, the Persians that is, interpreted the unexpected event as an evil omen sent to them by some god. So while they had the military superiority, they stopped fighting and made a peace agreement without a fight. Astronomers today estimate that the moment of the eclipse occurred in the late afternoon. This is from Epsilon Elas, and I've translated this from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.